Good Wednesday morning, everybody. So great to have you here because today's a special day. We are talking about leadership. And leadership is so important, not just in the day and age that we live right now, but across all of our workplace industries. Here's our question, can you close your eyes and say, I have worked for an amazing leader in my life at some point in my career? Can you name one? Because I could say that I could only name one true leader that I worked for. And you know right away if you have someone who's a leader or maybe simply just a manager. Is that making you think? Because most times people think leaders are, in fact, managers. But we're going to talk about the differentiator on that with our wonderful guest today, Jesse McCullough. Jesse, let me bring you onto the screen. Thank you so much for being here, buddy.
Hey, Michelle, it is wonderful to be here. I appreciate the invitation today.
Let me give you the proper introduction that you should have. Jesse McCullough is the founder of Keystone Pharmacy Insights. Quite frankly, he created that company so he could teach pharmacists how to lead. And tell us more about the origination of that company and why you felt compelled to work in this sphere. And by the way, you're a pharmacist yourself. I guess I should mention that, right?
Yeah, I'm a pharmacist by education, and I would say this, Michelle. I've worked in a number of different scenarios and situations over my career, and through a long story that we won't get into today, we'll save that for next time. But I became aware of this idea of leadership, these concepts of leadership, and as I started to look at them, I saw the lack of them around me. And I thought, well, maybe it's just the particular situation that I'm in. And as time went on, I came to find that there's pretty much a lack of leadership in a lot of places. And pharmacy is as most industries, there's a number of challenges that come up. And if we want to get to a better place, I firmly believe we need to become better leaders. We need to be able to lead ourselves. We need to be able to lead our teams. We need to be able to lead our patients to better health care. And especially with how a lot of the things within the industry are going, I think that is a skill set that cannot be overlooked, and that it's a skill set that is, quite frankly, underdeveloped.
So I'm so happy to dive into that one concept a little bit more, but I do want to give people a little bit more background of how did we even start to communicate with one another? Can you share our story with everyone who's listening?
Well, I'll tell the story, Michelle. You can keep me honest on this. But several years ago, I decided to go to a conference and took the weekend, went to a conference, and there was this whole agenda. And one of the agendas items was Michelle Berto's going to tell you how to get on TV. And I'm thinking, I don't even know why I'm going to. I don't know how this applies to me. I was that I had a low level of awareness at that point. And over the course of that presentation, you had done your homework, and you actually asked, hey, in the audience, is there someone here maybe from Pennsylvania that happens to be a pharmacist? And I thought, well, isn't that funny? There's another person from Pennsylvania here that's a pharmacist. And I looked over my shoulder this way, and I looked over my shoulder that way, and then I realized you were talking about me. And, and that, obviously that got my attention. It dialed me in a little bit more to the rest of your presentation. And very unusual for me. Usually when the sessions was done, I'd be gone, right? It was done and I'm out of there. And I thought, I need to hang around here just a couple of minutes to say thank you. And so I did that. You and I spoke, and you just shared with me how there is such a need in your industry to have credible people to be able to talk about things like Medicare, like medication when some of these things come up. And completely opened my eyes, and we've been looking for ways to work together ever since. And we've done some different videos, and you and I keep in contact pretty regularly, once every several weeks. And so it's that's my version of the story. You can clean up or correct any of that.
No, I'm just going to add on to it and say that because I met Jesse, and he pulled me into the world of pharmacy, which, quite frankly, I fell in love with the different language that you guys speak. And I'm just in awe of your brains because you guys are all so incredibly smart. And the way that you communicate is calculated, very precise. And it is a joy to weave our worlds together, because especially right now with everything that's going on in healthcare in our country, PBM's going to the Supreme Court in June, which we don't have to get into, but it's just that idea that I do believe that it's a congruence of both of our careers, that it is time for pharmacists to get on one cohesive page for messaging purposes, so that there could be sincere change for what's going on in your industry. Can you sum up for those that are not in the pharmacy world how you feel as if the industry has shifted and changed over the course of the last 10 years?
Yeah, I would say, especially from a community pharmacy perspective, one, you have more medications coming in. There's more people, higher demand for medications. But really, the way the industry is changing is it's changing more towards a longitudinal care aspect of it. I hopefully come across as a very young, vibrant person, and that isn't completely correct, because whenever I was doing my dispensing 20 years ago now. It was a little different model. Now the model is changing. The model at that time was you would come in, I would provide care for you, and it was very transactional. Now the way it's changing is that, you're going to come in, I'm going to provide care for you, but I also need to be looking longitudinally to make sure that your care is consistent as we go forward. For anybody that's probably a longer conversation that we could get into from there, but it's a change in mindset. It's a change from doing something right now to doing something over a period of time, and I think that's perhaps the most significant change for how we handle things in the community pharmacy now.
Yeah, I think that you said that so beautifully in soundbite form, I might add, Jesse.
Hey, you've trained me well.
So let's get back on track here and talk about the 3 leadership tips that you would like to dive into today. And this is specifically for pharmacists that just are feeling inundated in their practice, whether it be for a chain pharmacy or for their own pharmacy, and they see a lack of leadership maybe within themselves or maybe within the business model in which they work. So you have cultivated 3 different tips that you want to offer. And the first one is my favorite one. I'm going to give that away first.
Okay.
Is leadership is not management. Can you talk about that a little bit more?
Yeah, I tell you, I fell into this trap years ago where I thought that the person that I reported to had to be the leader. And I've come to learn that it very, very much is not. By definition, leadership is being able to get somebody to do something or to be able to lead somebody somewhere. And if you're not leading somebody, then there's, if you're not leading, there's nobody following you, right? So I was really raised with the mindset that the person, like the teacher in the classroom, they had to be the leader. Well, not all teachers are the same. You and I can remember teachers that were much more impactful in our lives than others. So the idea is that to be a leader, you need to be looking to take somebody somewhere. I mean, it's pretty much that simple. If you're going to lead somebody, you're going to be leading them somewhere. In the pharmacy, we're going to be leading a patient to better health care. We're going to be leading our technicians to be doing different tasks, different duties, things like that. And to your point here, Michelle, where this whole idea of leadership really just punched me in the nose, was that I was able to see a lack of leadership around me. But whenever I looked in the mirror and I saw a lack of leadership, that's what really, sort of sparked me to learn more about this and then to sort of share some of these ideas with others.
Can we dig deeper there for a second?
Yeah,
and I'm going to pry
absolutely.
Because that's what I do. Talk to me about that moment. Yep. Talk to me about that moment of when you did look at yourself in the mirror and say, wait a minute, maybe I could be doing a better job here as well. Because I think that some people may be struggling with that exact emotion right now. So can you dig a little deeper and tell us about that personal moment?
When you're in a situation and maybe things aren't going exactly as you wished they would, it's very easy to point blame somewhere else and say, well, if they were better, then I would be better, right? I tell the story this way. It is easy, and I need to pick your brain after we're done here, because I know there's all sorts of political things going on, and I know you're a political junkie. And I don't care what side of the aisle you're on politically. If you look at Washington D.C., you probably say, "Oh, there's a lack of leadership there." We could probably agree to that topic at least. I could see a lack of leadership in the organization that I was a part of. I could see a lack of leadership in my place of worship. But where it really got to be frustrating is I said, I looked at my home and I said, wow, things in my house are not going as well as I wish they would. And who's responsible for that? That looking in the mirror that's me. That's me. I'm responsible. If I want things to be better in my house, then that falls on me to help figure out a way to improve that. And leadership is probably the one of the most difficult jobs, because if you do it right, most people are mad at you. So, because you're asking people to change, you're asking people to do something different, and that's. I firmly believe that people love change for somebody else. Like Michelle, it would be wonderful if you would just change, but for me to change, that's a little more awkward. And you've got to, as a leader, you've got to be able to help transition people to that change. Taking it back to the pharmacy, that's helping your technicians get out of their normal routines and do something different. You're helping them change. You're leading them through a change. It's interacting with your patients, and your patients who have been doing something in a particular way, you're going to lead them through a change. And that's really where we get to the difference. And the short phrase that I would use for this is that leaders lead to a new destination, managers maintain. That's the difference. So when we're a manager, it's the same thing. And there's sometimes you don't like it, but hey, this is the way we've always done it, right? I've been in a few meetings where I've heard that, well, this is the way we've always done it, right? And I'm just I sort of reject that idea. I believe that there's a better way to do things, and to find that way, we need to be able to lead people through change.
Are leaders visionaries?
To some extent, yeah. I don't know that that's the prerequisite for it. Sometimes you could have a leader who has the vision. You could also be the leader who catches the vision. I would not say that the leader is the sole source of what that new destination is, but perhaps they start to say, I can see a place that looks like this. Now, you and I met in Orlando because I like going to Disney World, and you happen to live in Disney World's backyard. So I would say this. You look at Walt Disney. He was a leader, right? He had a vision for the theme park, but as things went along, he probably had some ideas, but he had all sorts of people that came along and made those things better, right? That he was able to equip them and then lead them to making those dreams become a reality.
Can you be born a leader?
Oh, this is a good one. By definition, all leaders are born, right? But I would say some people have some natural inclinations. But what I get most excited about with this is that you may say, "Well, I'm not much of a leader." The fact of the matter is that a lot of leadership skills you can develop, and that was so empowering for me to learn. Now, sometimes we look at people and we say, well, they're the smartest, they should be the leader, or they're the tallest, they should be the leader. They're the most eloquent to speak, they should be the leader. And that may be some advantage, but I don't know that necessarily is what makes you a leader. I can't make myself taller. I can't make myself more attractive. I can't do these things that would other people may say, oh, that would naturally draw people to them as a leader. But I would say this, as you start to learn the leadership principles and you start to exercise these leadership principles, that's going to put you in a position to be able to influence more and more people. And I think that's the true essence of leadership, being able to influence people to change in some way.
So you said something that goes directly into your tip number 2 on leadership
Okay.
in the pharmacy and in the workplace in general. And that was, you must work on becoming a better leader. And that's why I asked, are you born a leader and those skills are just within your personality? Or is it incumbent on all of us to identify those leadership principles that you just mentioned and work towards achieving those principles? What are your thoughts there?
I'm a big believer that you do need to work at this. And to me, a leadership principle that we use in my household. Sometimes, we're still getting better, but a principle that we work in our household is that you need to listen. Right, the leader's not just the person that talks all the time. The leader needs to listen and to really hear what those challenges are to be able to help lead somebody through that. Right, So I shared with you that as I started to become aware of this, and then I realized the deficit that I had in myself and in my household. I realized that if you set back, I can get my kids to be more helpful around the house if I listen to them. Right? That's a basic principle, and we can talk about those on another occasion. But you need to be learning these, and just my story is as I learned them and as I practiced them, I found, wow, I can be more impactful with what I do. So I think you need to be seeking these out, and then you need to be working on them to become better. Because I went from like woefully incompetent to marginally incompetent, and now I'd like to think that I'm maybe a step better. I'm moving towards competence. I'm not going to tell you that I'm the best leader. Please don't. Nobody hear me say that. But at least hear me say this. I believe that there's an opportunity for all of us to get better, but it doesn't happen by accident. You must be intentional about becoming a better leader.
Okay, that was perfect because number 3 was just that, committing to the process and making sure you realize that leaders aren't made in a day. You say that they are made daily. So talk about that, but also talk about the process, because I love action steps. So dig deeper on what someone can do daily to work on these leadership principles.
So I would say this. We all wish, and we're in the microwave society that we're in now, right? Where we want to be able to say, well, I did this and now I'm there. I've arrived, right? But the fact of the matter is that you don't just take a day and become a better leader. You have to learn these principles and you have to exercise them every day. It's no different than if you were to go to the gym, right? If you were to go to the gym once a year, how much better shape are you going to get in? You're not going to get in much better shape. If you take a day to go to a workshop, that's great. You're going to learn a lot of things, but it's no different than going to the gym for a day. If you go home and you never open up the book, you never practice the principles, you don't do any of those things, what real benefit is that going to have on you? And it's just this whole idea of the process of doing it day in, day out, day in, day out. That's really what helps drive those becoming normal routines for you. It's going to build credibility with the people that you're leading, and it's going to allow you to be much more impactful in the destination you're trying to help whatever group that is get to, whether it's at work, whether it's at home, or if it's anywhere in between. Now, I think I may have answered part of the question, Michelle, but I apologize. I forgot the rest of the question. So,
I'm actually going to go... I'm going to go back anyway, because we keep talking about working on leadership principles, but I think we need to start off with your favorite leadership principle to work on, because we talked about the process of how to work on it, but let's talk about those principles that we hold so dear over the course of the last couple of years.
Yeah, I tell you, for me, it's been, I just literally made a decision to become intentional about a lot of things. Now, some things I've become more intentional about, but, I said, physically, I'm not where I want to be, right? And if I want to lead myself to be in better shape, I need to be intentional about that. And it's not going to the gym once a week, once a month, once a year. It's not buying the membership. It's actually doing the work every day. And I realize that there's probably a lot of people that will watch this that are much better physically than what I am. But it was really weird in that it was literally like a light switch went off, and I said, I'm going to walk 10,000 steps a day, and I did. And I've done that. I've done that every day since I was doing it before, but I actually started counting on January 1st, 2017. And now here we are 3+ years later, and it happens every day. And it's intentional. Now, is it done at 9 o'clock every morning? No. Sometimes I'm working at
to midnight,
11:30 at night. Yeah, it's 11:30 at night, and I'm starting to cut it close. But it was a decision that was made, and that's through good days, through bad days. It's on holidays, Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is a favorite day of mine. But I found myself, I got to do my 10,000 steps. If I'm going to eat all the turkey, I'm going to do the 10,000 steps. And it's just some of those things that start to build. And what does it do? It gives me confidence that I can do other things that intentionally and that consistently from there. Now, I don't know if that's really where you were wanting to go with that, Michelle. I know you know that story, but I think that to me it's being intentional. Now, to become a better leader, it's opening a book, it's having a conversation, it's learning that principle, but then it's also practicing that principle. And I spent a lot, because somebody in education, I'm sure, will be able to tell the story a little bit better, but there's different levels of education. One where you're taught, but there's a higher level wherever you're able to teach others. And to be able to teach others, you need to know it pretty well. And that was something I did with a couple of my groups. And one group I just said, you know what, find what you need to learn and work on it. Do it every week, and I want you just to give me a note every week. What is it that you're working on? What did you learn? How are you getting better? With my last group, what I did is every week we went through something. Right, we went through a different principle, and as we learned those, it was amazing to see just how Michelle, I'm sure you've had this. You've had a conversation with somebody and you see the light bulb go off over their head, and when you start to see that, and a lot of these principles are not rocket science. I wish I could tell you that it's high end calculus and there's only a few of us that can get it. No, the fact of the matter is that it's very much within the grasp of anybody that you can learn these principles, and you can employ these principles to become a better leader. But you do have to be intentional about it.
So let's just take that idea and the leadership principle of being intentional and put it through the 3 steps that you discussed earlier. So, I'm just going to sum this up real quickly. The leadership principle is being intentional. And that means in step 1, you said leadership is not management. So leadership is having a vision and being intentional on creating the vision. Number 2, you must work on becoming a better leader. You must be intentional on your efforts to improve yourself and therefore improve your team. And then 3, commit to that process. And you had a great example of just having in your head, I'm going to be intentional about walking 10,000 steps every single day. And you have done it for so many years. You also had an intention of eating an apple every day. How's that one going?
That one hasn't gone as well, Michelle. I will tell you that. I did subscribe to the idea that an apple a day would keep the doctor away,
right?
And I would suggest that probably is true. But I am not as consistent with the apple a day as I am. But I will tell you this: I am more consistent with the apple a day than I am with the Hershey bar a day.
Ooh, see, that's good. That's good. No, but I'm glad that we took a moment to just take one principle out of the list of leadership principles and really walk someone through those 3 steps that you offered on how to become a better leader. Because I started this conversation asking, how many leaders have you worked for in your career? And I know for myself, the answer was 1. I'm curious, what's your answer to that question?
I would say this. I can think of I can probably think of a couple. And the other thing, just to throw out, and leadership is a big nebulous topic, and there's all sorts of different nuances. There's the idea of leading down. There's there's the idea of leading laterally to your counterparts next to you. There's also the idea of leading up, and be able to influence the person that is supervising you. I did have I did have one. While the title was manager, what he did is he created a lot of opportunities. He gave me a lot of gave me a lot of slack to be able to try some different things, and I very much appreciate that, because there are so many managers. Again, going back to the idea that managers maintain. This is the way we do it. This is the way we're going to continue to do it. He at least said, hey, you know what? Give that a shot. Go ahead and do that. I'm okay. I support you with looking at that. And so in doing something like that, yeah, I can say that. In my professional career, I have I've probably had two people like that that at least give me enough have given me enough of a runway that I can try something, and it doesn't always work out. I'm sure this one gentleman took a few complaints about me going in and saying, hey, I think we can do this better here, and it went and somebody didn't like the change. I could. That'll be a story for another time. But it was like, hey, you go in, you say things can be better, right? And that's and so I'm very blessed to have that. And since I've become more aware of that, to seek out people that to do that, to be able to mentor me and to be able to speak into my life and to help me see new opportunities. I'm just I would say, Michelle, that I am blessed to be able to share some of these thoughts with others, yourself included, to be able to potentially provide a light, a glimmer of hope, whatever it is, that there's something better out there, especially when sometimes the days are a little bit rough.
Absolutely. I will say that I call them Jesse-isms, because the way that you in particular present the leadership principle, I call them Jesse-isms because they're so memorable and they really stay with the people that you influence and impact. And sometimes I'll be in the process of doing something and I will say to myself, oh, that's a Jesse-ism. So yeah. I always talk about action items. And one action item I'll say is for people who are feeling just overwhelmed with maintaining, to use your word, maintaining the status quo, and saying to themselves, I spend my entire day just trying to breathe above water and make sure that all of my scripts are accurate, that I'm putting the right pills in the right bottle for my patients. How am I going to take now this extra added development of being a leader? How am I going to incorporate that into my day? What would you say to them?
Well, I'll tell you, when it becomes important enough to you, you will find it, and you will probably find it pretty easy. One of my mentors told me, and so you may take this as a Jesse-ism. It's not. Most of my Jesse-isms are things that I've picked up from somewhere else, but I'm told if you use it 3 times, it's your own. So I'll take credit for it. But he would say to me, when your why gets bigger, your how gets smaller. And I thought, wow, isn't that important, or isn't that impactful? Because, when it becomes important to you, when it becomes so important to you, you'll figure out a way to get it done. When the why gets bigger, the how gets smaller. I would say that. And, I have a son and his name is Jesse Jr. And we were at breakfast with some other gentlemen yesterday morning. And he chimed in. He's the youngest kid at the table, and he chimes in and he says, "Well, my dad told me at one point that you're more likely to act your way into a feeling than to feel your way into an action." And so you may not feel like spending, and it doesn't take much, 15 minutes. I would say that you can expose yourself to an idea on the car ride home, to work, from work. You can probably find something and then just, sort of chew on that, and especially if you do it on your way into work, I would probably advocate for that, coming up with an idea, or learning a principle, and then say, hey, at work, let's try this today. let's see how it goes, and take some time and try it, and maybe even try it for a few days and see if you can build some confidence and some momentum around that. But I don't know that there's ever the right time to do anything. I think in a lot of cases, you have to take that step, and then by taking that step, you're gonna find that you're gonna build the emotion and the excitement around that to keep you going forward. I didn't feel like taking that first step on January 1st of 10,000. I'm in Pennsylvania. It's cold, right? But you do that. And whenever I got to 9,000 steps, going from 9,000 to 10,000 was a lot different than 0 to 1,000, right? Because I was that much closer.
So let's leave people with how they could get in touch with you, because on all of your platforms, you talk about leadership principles and how to grow yourself, how to become a better leader. How could people get a hold of you, Jesse?
I tell you, I would invite you to connect with me on LinkedIn. We're on LinkedIn Live, and so I would invite you just to send me a connection. I don't know that I reject too many people with that, so send it over. Let me know what you have going on. I would love to love to connect with you that way. I also have a page on Facebook, Keystone Pharmacy Insights Insiders. I would invite you to put your name in for that. And what I do there is I just throw out a couple of ideas every day, just to get you to think. And and perhaps that's the one little thing you need as you're going into work today, and you just say, maybe there's something to that. Maybe there's something to that, and it'll give you something to consider. So I try to put a couple ideas out there every day, Monday through Friday, and just something to dwell on.
So maybe that's what we'll leave today as our big action step is, I think it's important to give people something to do. So maybe if you're feeling like, you know what, I think now is my time to expand my leadership skills, the intention is there to wake up, go on Keystone Pharmacy Insights, and get that Jesseism, because you just have a way with words, and it really is impactful, and it is changing people's lives. And maybe that's enough to think about over the commute, and then put intention behind those thoughts into your team and yourself.
Yeah.
Jesse, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Michelle.
We should also add that we talk about pharmacy all the time, but being a leader goes across so many industries. It's not even just in the workplace, right? It's, as you said, being a leader in your home. It's just about being a better person and being more impactful in the space that you take up. So thank you, Jesse. I appreciate it.
Yeah. I appreciate the opportunity to be here with you today, Michelle. Welcome the opportunity to come back, and sometime we'll flip this around and you'll come on with me.
Yes. Maybe we should talk about media messaging for pharmacists.
Absolutely.
Before the Supreme Court decision in June. All right, buddy. Thank you so much to everybody who is listening. We really appreciate you taking the time to be here with us on YouTube, on LinkedIn, on Facebook. Please feel free to ask any questions that we haven't gotten to in this live conversation. And we are going to be back next week. Jesse, you're going to love this. Okay. I am so close to getting the New York Times author of an article that really impacted your industry, Ellen Gabler. She wrote an investigative piece about what it's like to work at a chain pharmacy right now in today's day and age where things are shifting in so many different directions. A lot of pharmacists are feeling that need to voice their opinion of how the industry is shifting to a more commercial space, and we need to take into consideration the patient and not the dollars behind the patient. So that is forthcoming. I'm super excited about that. It gets my journalism vibes going. So that's next week. Good. And let's see, the week after that, we're talking about video marketing in the pharmacy space. So it's all about the umbrella theme of getting your messaging down. So you could talk about the issues, whether it's to a journalist who's doing an article or within your own pharmacy, your patients, and your own team. And hopefully you're incorporating all of those leadership skills. Jesse, thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Thanks, Michelle. I appreciate the opportunity today.
Okay. Talk to you soon. Bye, everybody.